There are two main things that they should be doing in the days that they have left. The first is to get testing out there. I feel like we should have learned our lesson from COVID that just because we aren't testing, it doesn't mean that the virus isn't there. It just means that we aren't looking for it. We should be having rapid tests, home tests available to all farm workers, to their families, for the clinicians taking care of them so that we aren't waiting for public labs and CDC labs to tell us what's bird flu or not. And the second very important thing is this is not like the beginning of COVID where we were dealing with a new virus, we didn't have a vaccine. There actually is a vaccine developed already against H5N1. The Biden administration has contracted with manufacturers to make almost 5 million doses of the vaccine. However, they have not asked the FDA to authorize the vaccine. There's research done on it. They could get this authorized now and also get the vaccine out and to farm workers and to vulnerable people. I think that's the right approach because we don't know what the Trump administration is going to be doing around bird flu. If they have people coming in with anti-vaccine stances, could they hold up vaccine authorization? If they don't want to know how much bird flu is out there, could they withhold testing? I mean, that's a possibility. And I think the Biden administration in the remaining days should get testing and vaccines widely available so that at least it empowers state and local health officials and clinicians to do the right thing for their patients.
Dr. Wen, is bird flu in humans super dangerous?
Well, the World Health Organization estimates that in prior outbreaks of the bird flu, that the mortality rate is 52%. 52%. However, in this most recent outbreak, it seems that most cases have been mild, and maybe some people even have asymptomatic infection. But the question is, we don't know what happens when bird flu affects more vulnerable individuals. People infected so far in the U.S. have been mainly farm workers who are working, presumably generally healthy, as opposed to what happens when you get to children, to pregnant women, to older individuals with chronic illnesses. We don't know how deadly, how dangerous bird flu is going to be for those individuals. And again, that's one more reason why we don't want it to spread and acquire more mutation.
So Dr. Simone Godek on X did a thread about this woman in the video, and I hope I pronounced her name right, but I wanted to share some insight into who this person is with you really quick. Bear with me. This is going to be a little bit of a long video, but I think worth your while, considering they're pushing this bird flu narrative now really hard. Yeah. Before we do a deep dive into Leana Wen's, let's look at what Nicholas Holscher had to say about this new vaccine. The bird flu vaccine she wants approved for humans is called Audents, made by CSL Seqirus. Humans injected with the Audents died at a rate of 1 in 200, 0.5% compared to 0.1% in the placebo group. In one of the clinical trials, study 3, this deadly injection must not be authorized for human use. Here's some more information on that study. Go ahead and zoom in order to read it if you have to. Dr. Simone Godek had this to say about Leana Wen. This Chinese-born woman just called on Biden to immediately authorize bird flu vaccines and distribute millions of doses ASAP. This woman hates your freedom and should be behind bars, yet the mainstream media continues to give her a platform. In September 2021, Wen demanded that the unvaccinated should not be allowed to leave their homes. This statement lacks support from available data to this day. It appears that you can take China-born Leana Wen out of communism, but you can't take communism out of Leana Wen. April of 2021, Wen labeled people who choose not to vaccinate themselves or their children as anti-science. COVID never posed any risk to children or adolescents, yet she pushed for getting children vaccinated, and she's trying to do it again. I thought this was really interesting. But did you know that Dr. Leana Wen has been a crisis actor since the Boston Marathon bombings? In the attached video, you can see her performing in front of a green screen. Why her, you might ask? Well, let's watch the video.
Leana Wen, she's an emergency room physician who was working at Massachusetts General Hospital the day of the terror attack. She also works at Brigham and Women's Hospital. So you were at Massachusetts General Monday. What happened?
Oh, it was a horrific day. We had no idea what was coming. It was 3 o'clock and we heard that there were 2 explosions, but we didn't know where. We had no idea how many people were coming to us.
How many people came?
It seemed like dozens, and it was. It was probably nearly 3 dozen patients in 2 hours or so.
And was the hospital ready for it? I heard from Dr. Walls from the other Brigham and Women's Hospital that because of all the drills the hospitals here have been running since 9/11, you were unbelievably prepared.
Technically and medically, we were ready. We had done drills. We knew what to do with each individual patient who came.
Interesting. Huh. Moving on, these 2 screenshots speak louder than 1,000 words. This woman has nothing good in mind. She despises us. She's a communist, globalist, who wants us diminished. Everyone needs to see this, and she must be called out at every opportunity. Notice that she's a part of the World Economic Forum. A doctor is taking over Planned Parenthood, and she is ready to fight. Huh. What do you need for all of these vaccines that babies can provide? Think about it. And drop it in the comments if you know what I'm trying to convey. Leana Wen isn't the only China-born person who spread panic in North America. Chinese-born Canadian health official Theresa Tam and U.S. fearmonger Eric Ding were similar fearmongers. I don't believe in coincidences. Yeah, I don't either. This graph is showing you how the United States and the Euro area dropped in economic growth forecasts, but China grew. What year was that? Oh, 2021. What was really booming at that time? Yeah, you guessed it. Her statements were far too radical, incorrect, and discriminatory in hindsight. 30 years ago, she would have been sent to for such remarks, but nowadays there are no consequences. Instead, she is allowed to continue pushing big pharma narratives, highly concerning. Let's look at this comment really quick. Exactly. We need to make it clear that vaccination reduces your chance of getting infected with COVID-19 and thus of transmitting it. Vaccinated people around other vaccinated people is much safer than around those unvaccinated. The key is stopping the pandemic. Vaccination. We all know now that that was a lie. And last but not least, take a moment to revisit this 2021 interview where Wen openly admitted that vaccine passports for travel aren't about safety, but are a tool to coerce people into getting the shot. She advocated for a Chinese-style social credit system enforced by the federal government and even claimed that traveling isn't a constitutional right. This woman poses a direct threat to the American Constitution and the principles of a free society. So let's watch the video.
I absolutely think we should have that requirement. I think it was a major oversight on the part of the Biden administration to not issue this yesterday. And we have to talk about the reason. The reason isn't so much that we need to keep our train travel and plane travel even safer. They are pretty safe, although I definitely think that having a vaccine requirement would make it even safer and probably encourage many people who are vaccinated or who have young kids and want to protect them. Maybe it'll help to encourage those people to start traveling again. But there's an even bigger reason too, which is I think we really need to make it clear that there are privileges associated with being an American, that if you wish to have these privileges, you need to get vaccinated. Travel and having the right to travel interstate, it's not a constitutional right as far as I know to board a plane. And so saying that if you want to stay unvaccinated, that's your choice. But if you want to travel, you better go get that vaccine.
So now, if you have to, go back to the beginning of this video and rewatch the first video I showed you where she's talking about the bird flu. And she's basically mimicking everything that she talked about for COVID now with the bird flu again. They were predicting the bird flu quite a while ago. So I just think it's interesting that they have everything they need now, all lined up. Conveniently, they already have a vaccine ready to go. They are pushing for more PCR tests again so that they can keep the narrative going. Because if you don't take the PCR tests, they have no way of knowing if it's bird flu or not. And if you take them and the numbers get high enough, they'll lock us down again. Remember the treaty I spoke about months ago? That the WHO, the WEF, and the UN just slid on through without a vote to further their agenda? Yeah, That is making all of this possible. She sure is encouraging the Biden administration to do something about it, lickety-split. As if she knows Trump won't. He does plan on having nothing to do with the WHO, and they know it. So it's almost as if it's controlled somehow. And then everything starts all over again. Do you see where this is going? Right before Trump takes office.